Hello everyone. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at lists in Python. Lists are a very, very useful tool to us, and they're actually one of the strongest data types that we have for the purposes of getting into some of the minutiae, is what I like to call. A list is exactly what it sounds like. It's basically going to be a mutable element that contains multiple elements that are always indexed by a specific number. Haha, that sounded like a lot. Could you give me an example? Sure, let me give you an example. Let's say I want to go ahead and create myself a really simple list. I'm going to create myself a list of cars. And inside of that list, I want to contain, let's go ahead and give myself 3 cars here. What could we have some fun? I'll do a Civic because science. We'll do a Fit because Honda. And of course, let's see here. We'll finish off with a CRV because Honda. We now have 3 elements in this list. And there's a bunch of things you probably notice about my declaration here. First of all, we've got these little suckers. These are square brackets on either end of the list that basically contain my 3 string elements in the list. The other thing you'll notice is we have 3 items in it total. Now, that's pretty cool. What happens if we print a list? Well, let's give it a shot and see what happens. Run my code. And you will notice here that it prints the list pretty much the same. Now, you're probably going to get a little annoyed here. You notice I've got quotes, and they automatically default to apostrophes. Don't worry about it. So if I want to call this one Civics, and I went ahead and ran it, watch this, you'll notice that it's smart enough to flip over to quotes for that one. So it's actually pretty clever. When it parses it, it actually parses it very, very accurately. Prints, what is it, cars, which makes it nice and simple. Now, that's pretty cool. I actually like the way that that handles it. Now, that's okay. It allows us to store things. So basically, we can shove a bunch of things in a list and take a look at it. And there's a bunch of different components inside of a list that we can actually utilize. And of course, we can get things back out of the list, which is where things start to get more challenging. Now, how would I get an item out of this list? Well, let's say I want to figure out what this first item inside this list is. And in this case, it would be Civic. How are we going to print that out? Well, the way we would do it is we type in print cars, and then we grab a square bracket. Now, the square bracket says, hey, could you go ahead and get the item out of the index indicated inside of the square bracket? Now, in this case, you're looking at this list. You're sitting, your brain goes, this is the first item, second item, third item, kind of a piece. So your brain goes, I'll put a number 1 in there. Cool, let's go ahead and run it. Boop. And you'll observe it gives us fit. You're sitting there going, but the first item in my list is the Civic. Well, in many different programming languages, you will know that the first item in a list is actually has an index value of 0. So if I were to run this, you will see here that our Civic is the first item in the list, and its address is 0. So you're like, oh, okay, I get it. I've got print first item in list. Print first item in list. I'll go pop that on there real fast. So that's not too bad. You're sitting there going, okay, I like that. What if I wanted to change the value of the item in slot 0? Well, that's easy. We simply type in the name of the item we want to change. Again, item cars of 0 is that item. And we simply type in what we want to convert it into. So let's see here. We'll do an S2000 here. Now, if we were to come back down here and let's say print cars, what you'll observe here is we'll print cars once. We'll print the value of the first item, which is the 0 item, Civic. We'll take the item of the first item and change it in S2000, and then we will reprint our list. Let's go ahead and run there. You'll see Civic Fit CRV, check. You'll see Civic, check. You'll see that I've overloaded value 0 here, index 0 with S2000. And then when I reprint my list here, you will observe the fact that S2000 is now the first item in the list. So you're sitting there going, oh, that's not bad. I can kind of iterate through that and do all sorts of fun things with that later on. Yeah, you absolutely can iterate through that. That is for another day. Believe me when I say that's for another day. So what we want to do now is we want to try to get the last item in a list. So your brain is sitting here going, oh, that's easy. I'll just print cars, item 2. I've learned as well less. So you press run and it gives you the CRV here. That's fine. What would happen if your list had an unknown number of items in it? Uh-oh. See how your brain goes, oh no, what do we do? Well, when we access items inside of a list, we can access them in either direction. We can either come from the left to the right, or we can come from the right to the left. To do that, we'd simply go ahead and put a minus sign and tell how far from the left we want to go. Now your brain says -0. I'm going to go 0 from the left. No, that's going to get you the first item because -0 is still 0. What you meant to do is -1, saying give me 1 from the right. Now, if I run this now, you will see that it gives me the item CRV because it is the last item in the list. Now, if you want to be that guy, you could come in here and do -3 and get the S2000. these are mechanically the same in our particular list here. Don't be that guy. I'll be that guy. Don't be that guy. So again, you can see a great way to get last item in the list, just like that. Fantastic. So now let's go ahead and get a little more complicated here. What if we tried to print an item out of a list that didn't exist? For example, let's come in here and say, give me cars of 10. Give me the 11th item in my list, please. Error, because it is out of range. This is everybody's favorite problem whenever they work with arrays and lists, is actually going boing and falling off the end of the cliff. That's my diving board sound as you go jumping off, by the way. And we can see here, it's out of range. There is no element of 10. So your brain goes, aha, oh yeah? Well, then I'll add element of 10 by typing cars of 10 equals, oh boy, running out pilot, running out of different options here. So you're like, run this. And of course, you'll see that you can't do that. You'll actually notice here, since item 10 did not exist, which would be the 11th item, it doesn't exist. So if we try to change it, it's going to scream at you saying it's out of range. And then, of course, when I go to print it, it doesn't matter because Python is already slammed into the ground and exploded. You know, it hit the shallow part of the pool rather than the deep part when it did that boing boing a few moments ago. So it's busted. So unfortunately, that will not work for this one. This is just a little error that people will make. Causes error since element does not exist in the list. Awesome. So I'm actually going to take both of these and do one of those real quick. I don't want these to distract us. I'll leave them on there just in case you want to go ahead and take a look at those later on. So you're sitting here going, okay, that's not bad. This list stuff seems pretty easy. I can kind of get the idea of kind of grabbing things and changing things. Okay, I like that. I like that. So could you give me an example of but what if I want to add something to a list? Then things get a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to leave these alone for us here. I'm going to go ahead and create a brand new list here. I'm going to call it ints, because why not? And I'll go ahead and create some numbers here. We'll do 1, 2, and 3. I'll leave out my usual favorite number there, but that's okay. Now you're saying, wait. These were strings. These are ints. Are you allowed to do that? Yeah, not only can you do that, but say, I'll call this mean list equals red 65, 64 because science. And of course, we want to come in here and say, we'll put another list in here, 1, 2, 3. And you're saying, wait, what? You can shove anything into a list? Yeah, you can. And it doesn't matter. As a matter of fact, I can put a list inside of a list. But that is a video for another day. Those are called two-dimensional lists. We'll deal with that later, though. So I have myself 3 different values here. I have 1, 2, 3, and it's in my little list called ints. What I want to do is I want to add another element to the end of this. Now, unfortunately, you're sitting there going, we can't do this. Actually, this would be int of 3. Okay, that's not going to work. We're not allowed to do that. So how am I going to add that element to it? You say, maybe I do something like this. That's not a thing either. How am I going to do it? In Python, the command to add an element to a list is append. We simply type in append, and we go ahead and type in what we want to append. In our case, we're appending 4. So I'm going to go ahead and print ints here. And what I expect to do is see 4 elements in our list, 1, 2, 3, 4, because we took the value of 4 and we stabbed it right there on the end. And you're like, oh, I like that. That's cool. I can dig. Add item to end of list. So you're like, that's pretty cool. How would I get an item off the end of the list, though? I mean, that's pretty slick, but let's say I want to just get rid of this value here. Can I remove it? Sure. You can also actually pop it off the list. So I'm going to say int.pop. And a pop is simply going to take the value off the end, and it's going to save it as this. So if I actually were to print int.pop, and I'll print int again, what it will do is it will take my list, get rid of careful. I'll go ahead and get rid of the last element on the list, print that last element, and then I will reprint my list. So if I actually were to run this, you can see here's my list, 1, 2, 3, 4, after we added 4 to it. We printed it, which we did. We popped it, and we also got the value of the thing we popped, and then we reprinted the list. So you can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, add 4, print it. Remove the last element, print it again. Just like that. Now, the pop tool is kind of cool if you just want to grab that last thing off of it. In the old days of stack programming, when you're doing assembly, you do a lot of popping and pushing. That's just kind of part of the fun here. But the pop command is going to get you the last element of that removed. Now, that's pretty slick. But maybe you want to do something a little more complicated. Let's get a little more complicated here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab myself a list called colors. And of course, you know what we're going to do here. We're going to do red, green, red. I'll go ahead and do another red here because science, and we're going to say some blue here at the end. So now this list is a little different. Again, well, we have a list of strings here. We have 3 reds, 2 green, and a blue. Now, I want to go ahead and get rid of one of the reds. Uh-oh. You can definitely see where this is going to get challenging. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this just to make it a little more complicated for us. Now that's nice and irritating. I want to get rid of one of these reds inside of this list. So the command to remove things in Python is called remove. So I'm going to simply type in colors, the name of our list, dot remove, and then we're going to remove red. Now I'm going to go ahead and print colors. Now this is where your brain is going to go, okay, which one of the three is it going to remove? Go. You observe that the one that it removed is the first one it encounters inside of the list. Do you see how that's like, oh, that's frustrating. So if I wanted to get rid of this one, how am I going to even get rid of that one? Now, this is an interesting puzzle for us because in the real world, we might not know where the last element of red is, but we have the ability to flip a list upside down. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to take my colors list. I'm going to reverse it. And what that will do is that will take my colors list and it will actually flip it around. Now, a very, very slick person, will probably say, is going to snap this, and now it's the other direction. So now I'm going to go colors.remove red, quote red, lowercase. Then I'm going to put colors back the way I found it originally, reverse. And then I'm going to go ahead and print colors. So what I've done is I took my list, flipped it upside down, deleted the first element of that, because remember now it's going the other way, and then I put it back the way it is. So if I run this, you'll actually observe here, remember how we removed that other one, I flipped it, and then got rid of that item that was on the other side. Now it is very expensive to do all this reversing business, so you have to be very, very mindful of it when you're actually doing it. As a matter of fact, for my example here, let me actually hashtag those two suckers out, just so you can see that it worked perfectly for us. It actually got rid of that red off the end. Now you're sitting here going, oh, that's actually pretty good. That's a neat trick. That's how we get rid of the one on the other end. What if we wanted to get rid of something at a specific point in your list? That's when it gets a little bit more challenging. So we're going to go ahead and have to get a little creative with that. So let's go ahead and create ourselves another list here. I'll say floats this time because science. Let's see here. What can we use? 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. Let's say I want to eliminate the element 2.0 from our list. How are we going to get at it? Well, that's actually pretty easy. Remember our pop command a few minutes ago? We're going to be using it again. So I'm going to say floats.pop. And remember, I want to get rid of this guy. So I'm going to put a 1 in the parenthesis here. Now, if I print floats, what you're going to observe here is that we'll pop out that item from that list. Now, if I wanted to print it like you saw a few minutes ago, I could put print floats pop 1. Starts to get complicated, and that would of course display that value for us if we wanted to, but you can actually see that we can do it. Now let's go ahead and take a look at another advanced case here. What if I wanted to insert something into a list at a specific point? So let's say after I popped that 1 out, that I want to put 2 values inside of here. That's when it gets a little different. That's where we're going to use the insert command. So I'm going to type in floats dot insert, left parenthesis. We're going to say where we want to insert it, 1, comma, and simply the value. Let's do 64.0. Let's go floats.insert. We're going to do index 2 this time, and we're going to say, I don't know, 128. Why not? Because science. And we'll go ahead and go to the end of this here. I'm going to go ahead and print floats one more time. If I go ahead and run this, what you will observe is you will see that I have inserted that item in a specific spot. In this case, you can see my 1, my 64, my 128, and you can also see my 3 chilling there after having punched out that 2.0 value in the middle. Now you're sitting here going, wow, this gets pretty messy. I mean, is there any way that we could put this in some kind of order after you do all that damage to it? Yeah, we can. One of the handy commands we have in Python is called sort. If you create a list, we can sort that list. So if I go floats, again, we can keep that dot sort, and I type in just like that. Now, if I were to print floats, watch what happens inside of my values. You can actually see here that it goes in now ascending value in my list. This is expensive, by the way. Keep that in mind. Now you're like, oh, but what I really wanted to do, sort A to Z, small to big. Let's be specific here. What if I wanted to sort it in the other direction? Now, really, really sharp-eyed people would say, can't you just reverse this list after you sorted it? Shh, nothing from you. What we can actually do when you use the floats command is we can do float sort, and we can actually type in reverse equals true. And we're telling it to go the other way. So now if I print my floats, it should go reverse. So if I run this, you can see now we're going from 128 all the way down sorted. As a matter of fact, if I were to hashtag both of these suckers out for the purposes of explanation, I over hashtagged, you can see that it did a really nice job of sorting them reverse. Sort list in reverse. Now I know what you're thinking. What would happen if you tried to do some fancy thing here when you wanted to do it based on other options? I mean, this sort is pretty darn useful, but like, what if I wanted to define how I sorted? Well, going to be getting a little complicated with that. For the purposes of demonstration, I'll show you an example. But again, one of the things we can do is we can actually define a key when we do a sort. But to do that, this is a classic example of doing a lambda function here. So let's see here. We'll do sort it by length or something like that. So we'll say word length equals lambda. Because let's do it. You asked. You're yelling. You're saying, hey, I want to do this. Let's see here. We're going to send a value, and now we're going to return the length of that value. So now we could go ahead and sort. Let's go ahead and make it interesting here. Do I want to do days? We'll do months this time. In June, and we'll do July. We'll do August. And because we're silly, we'll also do January. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort this list based on how many letters are inside of these individual strings. Now, there's a little bit of goofiness going on up here, but we'll deal with that a little bit later on. So now all I would have to do is simply type in months.sort key, which is the key we're sorting by. This is going to be a little bit crazy here. Word length, just like that. And that will be my method. It'll actually feed this one at a time into it, and then basically resort the list, and then spit it back at us. So now if I print months, I'll go ahead and I'll press that lovely run key real quickly. You can see it did a beautiful job of putting it alphabetically, and it did it by increasing length. So January, of course, is the most letters. Of course, June and July both have the same amount of letters, but June would come before it. Kind of slick, if you ask me. But again, I find these kinds of things a little bit too advanced. I just wanted to show you that we can get a little more sophisticated with it. But again, we've already gone way too back. So as you can see, lists are very flexible, very, very potent. They give you plenty of different stuff that you can do with them as far as getting values in and out, pushing and popping, inserting. Well, there's one more thing that I forgot to say, though, and that is how do we get what address something is in the list? Before I continue, let me just do that. If we ever need to get the address of an item from a list, you simply use the index command. And to do this is really simple. Simply go ahead and type in the list name, type in the index command, and then in the parentheses, you're simply going to type in the element. In this case, we'll say July. So now if I were to run this code real quick, you will get the address of July, which of course is going to be 1. Now, if you're not careful, let's say I put May in here. Remember, May doesn't exist. If I run this again, you're going to get a big angry message that's going to say, hey, that thing you were just asking me about doesn't exist, Chief. So I just want to be mindful of that. So as you can see, as I was saying, lists are very, very potent and powerful. There's actually a lot of other stuff to do with them, other than all the stuff that I've confused everybody with down here. But we'll take a look at that in another video. Enjoy.